So now we're going to talk about statistics. And with statistics, we're talking about mean, median, mode, and specifically looking at box plots, finding those quartiles in the interquartile range. So I have just some definitions here for you. Mean, remember, is your average of the values. That's the sum of all of whatever you're adding divided by the total number of values. For the median, that's your middle number. Remember, you have to put it in order from least to greatest. If you don't put it in order from least to greatest, you're not going to get that median. And then the mode is the number that is most often occurring. So you're looking for how many times that number shows up and which one is the most. Remember, I love the mean, median, mode totes. So if you'd like a fun video to watch, just to refresh yourself on these things, check out the mean, median, mode totes on YouTube. Now, the newer stuff that we talked about at the beginning of the year is the extremes, the minimum, maximum, the quartiles, the interquartile range, all of that stuff. So the lower extreme is just another way to say the minimum value. That's the smallest value, that lower extreme. And then the opposite end, the upper extreme, that's your maximum, your largest number. Then we have quartiles. So your lower quartile is the median, that middle number of that lower half. And then the upper quartile is the median of the upper half. It's referred to as the Q3. So the lower quartile, LQ sometimes Q1. And then the upper quartile is UQ, sometimes Q3. So keep in mind those are interchangeable. You might see one or the other. Just keep in mind they mean the same thing. Now, for a regular range, that is your maximum minus your minimum. However, if it's asking you for an interquartile range, you need to be careful. It's IQR, interquartile range. That's normally the upper quartile minus the lower one. So either Q3 minus Q1 or UQ, upper quartile, minus LQ, that lower quartile. So let's go ahead and look at an example of this data set. So I'm going to go ahead and erase all this. If you need to see this, just pause the video so you can get a screenshot or write these notes down so you have what these words mean, but they're going to disappear now. So we're going to go ahead and talk about an example or two, and I'm going to show you how you can find this on your calculator as well. So if you're using a graphing calculator, you can calculate all of this in that graphing calculator, and I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. So it says that given the set of data, it is 4, 10, 10, 14, 4, 25, 15, 22, 16, and 10, find each value. So step one is to put every number in order from least to greatest. We can't find these extremes if we don't have them in order from least to greatest. So in this example, my lowest number here is those fours. There's two of them, okay? And I like to write them and then just cross them out as I go so I don't miss anything. After those fours, we have some tens. There's 1, there's 2, and there is 3 tens. After those tens, I've got 14, and then 15, and then 16, and then 22, and then 25, okay? And then I can go ahead and find my mean, median, mode, all that stuff. But let's go ahead and find just the easiest things to find first, which is my lower extreme, my upper extreme. So my lower extreme, my lowest, my minimum value is 4. I can see that right there, the smallest number in my list there. And then my upper extreme, my maximum, that's at 25. Okay, I can see the mode, the most often, that number is 10 because it appears 3 times if I just count it out. 1, 2, 3. Oops. So 3 times does that 10 occur. So let's see. The other one that would be easy right now is the range. Remember, that's just your maximum minus your minimum. So I'm taking my upper extreme minus that lower extreme, my maximum minus my minimum. That gives me 21. So now the next part, let's go ahead and find the mean and the median. So to find the mean, remember you're adding up all of these numbers and you're dividing by the total. So let me go ahead and bring my calculator in, and I have 4 plus 4 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 14 plus 15 plus 16 plus 22 plus 25. Okay, and that's 130. And I can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 numbers. So I'm taking that divided by 10 to give me 13. So my mean here is 13 because I add up all those numbers and divided by the total. To find the median, I'm looking for that middle number. So I can either just count from each side and cross them off as I go. I know there's 10, so my middle number is going to be in between the fifth and sixth number. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the other side. So that right there is my median. Now, I don't have an exact number in that space. It's 10 and 14. So I need to find the mean of those numbers. So you might be able to just figure this out by looking at it. But if you can't, all you have to do is take 10 plus 14 are your two numbers on each side. Get that, and then divide it by 2. So 12 right here is my median. Okay, and again, I am doing that by taking 10 plus 14 and dividing by 2. At this point, I have my numbers split up into two halves. So my lower quartile is the middle of the lower half, and my upper quartile is the middle of the upper half. Now, when you are finding the lower quartile and the upper quartile, since I'm splitting, I don't have a middle number here. I'm just going to go ahead and count here. Like I got 1 on each side there, 2. Okay, so my lower quartile is at 10. And then on this side, I've got 1, I got 2. My upper quartile is at 16. And then to find that interquartile range, I'm just taking that 16 minus 10, okay, which is going to give me 6. So that's just how you find that data by hand. There is a way that your calculator will find this for you, which we will get to that in a little bit. So for box and whiskers, this is typically how you're going to represent this data because you have the middle. Each section, remember, is 25% of your data. So like from this point on the end here to this first line, that's 25% of this data. From this dot to the middle dot, this is 25%. This section's 25%, and this section's 25%. Okay, so don't forget that that's really what we're looking for here. If I'm going to draw this little sketch that might help you identify all these parts. Okay, and if you want to sketch this too, just so you have it, that could be helpful. Okay, so here's my minimum. This is my maximum. Okay, this point here is my quartile 1. This point here is my quartile 3. This middle point here is my median middle number, right? So then I'm looking at every chunk being 25%. Okay, so we're going to use that to help us in this problem, figuring out our answers. So the first question says, what is the median of each set? So the median, remember, is that middle piece right here. So in this case, it's the same. It's at 70. Number 2 says, which one has the lesser range? So you can see which one has the least amount of distance between the first dot and the last dot. And the first dot and the last dot here, A, has this much distance. B has this. So you can take these numbers and subtract them and get that number. Or I can physically see that A has a smaller range. It's shorter than the other one. So I know that it is overall going to have a smaller range than part B. And then it says which plot has the greater interquartile range. So to look at that, you're looking at the length of the box. Okay, so here, this box is this big. But for part B, that box is bigger. So that's telling me that that's going to have a bigger interquartile range. Okay, so the bigger the box, the bigger the interquartile range. The longer the entire image is, the longer the range is. To find the upper quartile of each set, you want to look at that spot right here. Okay, that upper end of that box. So for part A, I can see that that falls at 80. And for B, it's falling at 85. Okay, and then it's asking in the next part, what's the lower extreme? So remember that is this section here. And you can see A is falling here at 65, and B is falling, oh, just kidding, ignore everything I just said, just kidding. That was the lower quartile. It's late, I'm sorry. This is the lower extreme, the minimum. Okay, so the minimum for set A is at 50, and for B, it is at 40. Okay, and then it's asking for percents in the next ones. So, what percent of the data in plot B is between 60 and 85? So, specifically in the second one, I have this section is between 60 and 85, and this section is between 60 and 85. There's 2 sections there, so I know that's 50%, because 25 plus 25 is 50. The next question says what percent of the data in plot A is greater than 80? So I'm looking at where 80 is, and it's just this one section, and one section is only 25%. And then for the last one, it's asking me what percent of the data in plot B is less than 85? So I'm finding 85, which is right here, and everything less, there's 1 section, 2 sections, and 3 sections. So that's 75%. Okay. So that's the basics of box and whisker plots. You might also see stem and leaf plots. And remember, you're reading these by the stem is like the tens place, and the leaves are the ones place. So in this first one, that stem and leaf would be like, your data would be 52, 54, 56, 58, 61, 65, 68, 72, 74, 74, 74, 75, 77. And then you just answer these questions just like you would in regular mean, median, mode types questions. It's just a different setup. So for example, part A, what were the highest and lowest scores? So the highest score is this 9 and the 6, so 96 is the highest. And the lowest is my 5 and my 2, 52. To find which one occurred the most frequently, just look for which one's repeating the most. In this case, it's that 4 connected to the 7, so it's 74. If it's asking for the 10-point intervals, that would be everything in each row. Okay, so all of these numbers, these are each of the 10-point intervals. So it's asking specifically about that in part C. And it says which one did most of the students score. And you can see there's more data in the 7 section, so the 70s is the highest there. If it's asking for how many students received a score of 70 or better, you can just count every kid who got more than 70. In this case, there were 13 answers. And then how many received less than that? So again, opposite thing, just count the lower end of the spectrum there. Okay, and then I know there was some confusion when we first learned about the double stem and leaf. So I just want to remind you how to read this. So again, that middle section, that is the stem still, that is the tens. The other ones are the ones, even if they're backwards. So for the afternoon, you read it just the same as we did at the top. But for morning, this is telling you it's 74. These are the tens. So these are 70s and 80s. So 74, 78, 78, 80, 84, 89. So you read them kind of backwards. So just be careful. And there will be a key to tell you that. So just be super careful that you're reading it correctly if you end up seeing this kind of question. Okay, we're going to skip over to the calculator section now. So these directions, you should already have them from the beginning of the year, but if you don't, it's okay. Take a screenshot of what you need to do here. I'm going to go ahead and follow along in my calculator. Hopefully my digital version allows me to do this. So step 1, it says we're going to put all of these scores into our calculator to figure out our stats. So I'm going to press stat, and I'm going to press edit. And I'm going to have this table, like you can see here, there's a screenshot right there. I'm just going to type all of these numbers into that first column. Okay, so I'm typing in 74, and then I'm typing in, 98, 60, 72, 80, 91, 52, 73, 72, 66, 92, maybe. There we go. 68, 75, 66, 84, and 82. Okay, so I have 16 sets of data here. All my data is put in here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to Stat again, arrow over to Calc. This is the middle section for you. And we want to choose one var stats. This is one variable statistics. So we're clicking that. And then it should already be set. Please make sure that your calculator says list L1 and that your table matched L1. If they don't say L1, you're going to need to make sure that they match. And if you need to do that, you should be able to just set that up. Oh man. I will, it's in here somewhere. Ask me again on Monday and I will find where that button is. I cannot remember right this very second. It might be, actually, hold on a second, list. There. Okay, so if you go to second and stat, it'll bring up this option, and you should be able to just like put those into the one var thing. So I'm going over to Calc. I'm going over to one var. Mine already says L1, so I'm good. I just press enter, and it does give me all of this data for my information here. So let me go ahead and go back over here real quick. Okay, so you saw all these symbols. They all mean different things. So let's just have a refresher on what they mean. The X with the little line over it tells me that's my mean, okay, or my average of my data. Okay, and that in my calculator, you can see it there. You can see it right here. Okay, 75.31. Oh goodness. The 3.1. So I'm just going to write 75.3. This E with the X is just the sum of all of the data. That's what the E stands for, sum. Okay, and if you add all the numbers together, you get 1,205. The N is telling me that number of values, so how many answers did I put in there? And that is 16. Min X is your minimum value or your lower extreme. Okay, and the min X, that is 52. Okay, so in my calculator, my min X, you can see that. I know it's all pink now for some reason, but like right along that line area, min X is 52. So that's my minimum value. And then you can see I have Q1, median, Q3, max. So Q1 is that first quartile, that lower quartile. Median, obviously, is your median. Q3 is your upper quartile. And max X is your maximum, or that extreme. So Q1, we said, is the first quartile. It's the lower one. And according to my calculator, it was 67. MED is median, and that is technically Q2 if they ask you for that. 73.5. Q3 is your third, or that, I don't know why I wrote quarter up there. Quartile. Sorry about that. You stop making videos at 12:30 at night. Upper. Okay, and that is 83. And then this is your maximum, your last value. Okay, and that's your upper. Please note that this is not going to give you your, that's 98, your mode, okay? It's not going to tell you the one that's the most frequent. You need to be able to look at that and figure it out yourself, okay? So that's where I'm going to stop for now. If you would like more examples of these types of questions, I can give you more. There should be some in the Delta Math, but I do have more examples of just calculating this stuff. It should be pretty easy as long as you just remember it's always under the stats button. You always want to go to stat, edit, will let you type in all your data. make sure it says L1 at the top. Okay. If it doesn't say L1, you can reset your calculator, or you can just go ahead and find where that's at. But then one variable stats is what we're looking for, and that'll give you all of this information, so you don't have to figure out anything but the mode by hand. Okay, so that's just helpful when we're talking about these quartiles. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I will help you as best I can since I'm not there. But yeah, we'll talk about this more on Monday, just to make sure we fully understand it. And please make sure that you are practicing your systems, because there are a ton of questions on the Keystone about systems and systems of inequalities, solving them by graphing, solving them just in general, algebraically, either by substitution or elimination. That's what we're going to talk about on Monday. So please make sure you're doing at least this so we can move on to the system stuff on Monday and then do one final game review. I'd like to play games on Monday. But we can't play games unless you guys get this done, because this is something we haven't talked about in a long time, so I need to make sure you remember how to do it. So please make sure you're working, make sure your classmates are working really hard, getting this done, so we can play games on Monday. Okay? Again, email me if you have questions, reach out to me. I'm trying to be on GoGuardian. Sorry if I'm not. But please reach out to me if you have questions.